It is November 14th, 2024. This is the program called Finding Truth Everywhere, and it is a free offering at an open door. And I have a song. I tend to always have a song. Barbie's not here, so someone else is going to have to remind me to hit record again. I have not yet put this song in our playlist, but I will. And it's a different kind of song than what I typically find. I don't know if I ever heard it before I sat with Spirit this morning. Um, and I wanted to talk a little bit. The song is called "Trying My Best" by Anson Ciabla. It's beautiful. I suggest you watch the video as well as listen to the song. But I want to talk a little bit about why this song feels so good to me. Sandra's in the room, right? Hopefully she's listening because she's my face whenever I really sit in this. One of the beautiful aspects that is different for me in the Rupert teaching that I really got from this watching this entire thing in various ways, and I'll talk about it a little bit more after the music as well, is that Rupert talked about balance. He said that there's an inward facing path and there's an outward facing path. And one of the stumbling blocks to many who are in the inward facing path is that they believe that calling the world out there an illusion, and so I don't have to engage in it, is not useful. Or at least, there is a period on our path where we step away from the world and we stay focused inwardly. But then part of the journey is to turn around and step back into the world. This is Cindy's words now, not Rupert's. But we go in and our consciousness is raised and we're less attached to the fear-based world. And at that point, we have the opportunity to turn around and face outwards again. We step fully into the world. I don't know if I've heard Rupert talk, at least it didn't, maybe because of everything we do here and all the conversations we've had, it really, really, really affected me. The way he said it's a balance. There's a period in the journey where I find myself going inward, or in the beginning of his journey, it was more important to step away from engaging in the world. But here's the quote. I think Andre asked him what our purpose is as individuated beings or human beings. And the words are, the divine purpose of every finite mind is the discovery of its divine nature and then letting it express into the world. It's the end of that I didn't write down word for word. But essentially, when Rupert was asked, why the fuck are we here? Why are we having this experience? I tend to ignore things at that point because lately I'm all about direct experience. But this verbiage feels really useful to me, right? If I have to have a purpose for being at this point, what an extraordinary purpose. It really lights Cindy up. This idea that my purpose as a finite individual being is to discover God and embody God, and then allow this being to help express it into the world. And so there was this sense in his talk that I got one of my favorite quotes from the Vasista Yoga is the world is both real and unreal, as a wave in the ocean is real and unreal. And this idea that the tides go in and there's this period, even Jesus had to go and be by himself in the desert. There's a period of going inward, and then as a natural expression, we turn back out. And it was along those lines. And then just because, in all honesty, so if anyone doesn't know, Barbie is having cancer surgery tomorrow, and my heart hurts. I don't want my friend to be dealing with what she's dealing with. So I'm bringing it to this place, and I am acknowledging that I'm feeling very human and sad that friends of mine are going through experiences. And even though they're on this path, right? We're all on the path and we keep showing up and we're allowing the divine to fill us. There is the humanness in me that wish it wasn't happening, right? And somehow, in honor of Barbie, who's not here right now, and what she's going through, and in honor of my daughter, who is making headway on the stolen car story loop, and in honor of my sister and her suffering, and in honor of whatever else is going on in the lives of the people I care about, and in this life, this is why this song is happening, and um, and it's called "Trying My Best." And I'm gonna put this on pause, and in case you can't hear my voice, I am crying. So here we go. Um, So that's actually the first thing about this video that is so meaningful for me. I have recognized that on this path more than once, Cindy, the personality, has made this decision to have to step away from engaging with the world as if it was meaningful and real because of intense pain and struggling and conflict and all sorts of stuff. And where I am on this journey now is the understanding that at some point um, we have to dive in to whatever's going on in the world around us. And this teaching of Rupert's really changed my world. This part of it, this idea that we continually do the work, and as we do the work, our frequency, our consciousness is raised. There's more love. Our story our story kind of becomes more and more transparent. And then when we step into the world, when I am fully present with my friend who is struggling or dealing with a world gone insane, um, then my level of consciousness can do things for others that I don't even have to be aware of. So it's my responsibility. That's what Rupert said, to be in the world, to continue to do the work and then turn around and be in the world, and then go and do the work and turn around and be in the world. Um, yeah, if that's all I say today, it's actually enough. I have other things to say though, but first I'm going to hand things over to Dave.
I just wanted everybody to know that I just had an interaction, a connection with Barbie before the music started and during the music. And I sent her love and strength. And I sent it for me, but I also know it was coming from all of you. And I think she knows that too. And I just feel good about that. And because it's just I don't do those kind of things, but I did, but today I did, and it was just like a natural thing to do. And we were together, and I knew that. And so I just wanted to share that to let you all know that happened. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything before I go on with my notes? Please, Sandra. Minds are joined, hearts are joined. All
Had,
yours, Sandra.
having a little trouble with my screen. Before you get started, my daughters, Katie and Laura, asked me to thank you,
Me?
you and this community.
Tell us more.
Thank you, because I share the videos with them. Yeah, they just said to say thank you. That's it.
That's just my heart.
I'm having trouble with this.
All right. So the second note on my list, and I have a little exclamation mark on it. Truth is simple. Rupert just said the truth is simple, you know, just, our beingness. And then he literally said it's simple. It's all the same. It's actually why we do this class, right? But he said what happens is the teachers show up in a certain period of time over the last 3,000 years, right? And they are attempting to express the truth to a specific group of people, and they are required to use the languaging and the principles and the parables that will allow the potential for the truth to be learned by that specific community of people. Um, and so here we are 3,000 years later, after, written language gets started or whatever it is, and we're looking at this huge body of teachings that on the outside looks really, really complicated, but when you strip it all away, it all says the same thing. And the complication literally just comes from the different communities, their different languages, their different current level of consciousness. And I thought that was a beautiful pointing. So, and it sort of fits with the purpose of everything we do at an open door. So that was the second thing on my list. Everybody's being so quiet. How's this one? And it's just a little number 3. And it's because I'm laughing and I can go on talking about it. But he just literally, it was a quick line in and out. You said time only exists when you think about it. Anybody else catch that? Just that line. Time only exists when you think about it. Hey, John, are you there?
I am.
Good to see ya. We heard you moving. Um,
Good to hear you. I heard your movements.
Good to have you here.
I'd like to address that last statement
Please do.
that you just brought up. I mean, it's another one of those things that's just so obvious that you miss it, right? Say it again for me so I don't mess it up, please.
Time only exists when you think about it.
Right, because there's no real such thing as time except us watching a hand on a clock, right? Or the sun setting and coming back up again. So it's an idea. Time is an idea, and we think about ideas. That's what thought is, ideas. So.
Yeah,
Thank
thought
you.
creates time, right, Kendall? So one of the ways I've looked at this more and more, I'm in this, I've discovered this ability that there is a space that is holding the Cindy mind body personality. And from that awareness, this is a lot of practice, but I am finding it possible and quite interesting to watch what I've been calling the self-referencing I filtering system. Or you coin that phrase, right? The self-referencing I filtering system is what holds in place this experience that what I am is not you. And it is characterized by three very basic flavors. It has a flavor of either or a combination of not me, not here, not now. That's it. If any aspect of the current experience has a flavor that includes not me, not here, not now, I have learned it's coming from this activity that you could call the ceiling fan or the hamster wheel or whatever holds this idea of duality in place. Not me, not here, not now. Time is an inherent part of that, right? Not now. When I am fully immersed in an experience, just in the experience, and there's no thinking, there's no time, there's no me having an experience, right? There's just the experience. Getting lost in a sunrise, getting lost in a good movie, having even conversations with my daughter every once in a while when we're talking about nothing or everything. There's no me and her. There's just these ideas dancing. There's no time in that. They were even talking about that. They were pointing to the fact that they were in a conversation for 2.5 hours that felt like 5 minutes because there was no, oh, look at this, I can't wait till it ends, or this is what I have to do after. It was just being fully immersed in the moment. Course in Miracles, I think, would call that the holy instant, which lasts for all of eternity. It's something that's really been tickling my insides. Hey, Amy.
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I enjoyed this video a lot. I always like Rupert. Most of the time, I really do. I think he's a phenomenal teacher. I had a couple of moments during the his talk, especially when he was describing what marriage is, when I really wanted him to go a little bit deeper and be a little bit more transparent. But it's not my place to ask him to do that. Everything that he said, I have heard before, as you said, Cindy. So what I think I got the same thing out of it that you did, which is that I could almost have finished his sentences for him, right? So I know what he's saying. And what really just came down for me is to just be. And he described the three paths, the progressive path where you direct your attention to an object, whether it's the breath or a mantra or a lesson in A Course in Miracles. And then the direct path where you ask yourself, what is it that's aware of this experience? What is it that's aware of this emotion? What is it that benefits from this thought that's arising? Who am I in this moment? Who do I imagine myself to be in this moment? Just those questioning, deepening questions. But then the pathless path, just simply resting in being, which actually feels very Zen to me in a way. But I think that's kind of where we are, is knowing what we are, knowing what we're not. And it's I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. And then, as Rupert said, you turn around and you say, I am that, and I am that, and I am that. I am all of that, and I am none of that. Right? But what I am is just being, the space in which all of this is arising. And there's nothing more to do after that except be the space as often as you can. As often, not you, there's no you. Just be the space. And when the personality veils awareness, awareness just pulls itself back in, you know. And I think it's almost a process of every time awareness pulls itself back in and the small self says, yes, I like this. Yes, yes, I like it. Awareness says, oh, I'll give you more. And so the interval between getting lost and resting and being becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Beautiful.
Say
By
hi,
the way,
Barbara.
Barbie, I almost forgot to turn the record button back on, but I remember.
Sorry about that. My computer at 12:20, at 11:55 decided it had to update itself. Took it 30 minutes for me to get on.
We're very happy to have you here.
I'm glad I'm here, but I know I missed a lot.
Well, it's being recorded, and at the end of it, if you want, we'll play the song.
Thank you.
Hey, Sandra. See, if I do that, does it help?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my iPad. Thank you for that song. That was really nice. So I had the same experience listening to Rupert that both of you and Amy expressed, that I've heard this before, read his books. But there was something very different for me this time, and that was the interviewer, Aaron Anson?
Andre.
Okay, Andre. The way he articulated the questions added so much for me, because he was asking questions I had but I didn't know I had, and or I haven't been able to express them prior to this. So when he asked Rupert if he'd had a sudden awakening, and he described the three paths, I just had this insight that the reason I've been so confused since coming into this community and the Center for Awakening was that I didn't have that I have never been like on a path. And it was confusing to me. And I realized that with the progressive path and even the direct path, that it was trying to take me to a place that I already was. And that's basically why I was confused. And then the other question that he asked that really hit me deeply was when he asked him about the non-dual approach and how it seemed a withdrawal from human experience, and that it lacked the exuberance and the enlivening that he himself felt. When Andre was asking that question, he was saying, speak to that, Rupert. And when Rupert spoke to it, I don't remember everything he said because he talks in long sentences and paragraphs. But he talked about, as Amy said, the going out and back, the looking outward, then looking inward, and then coming into human experience. But I felt like he still didn't address the love. And then Andre pushed back on that a little bit. So I just felt that this interview, the way this man really, not only was he well prepared, it's like he had real insight into the nuances one of the thing I kept questioning, the non-dual path, when I would hear teachers, even when they were like trying to talk about the Course in Miracles, which has so much love in it, when I would listen to teachers of the non-dual path, it was almost like, let's extricate ourselves from this experience and still feel it, but feel it at a distance. And even Rupert said some things about that, like, you still feel emotions, but you don't lose yourself in them. So I'm still contemplating this, but I just love that he really pushed him on that. The teachers that I respond to the most aren't really talking about a particular path or a particular practices. They're the ones that are talking about real life, and that's why I like this community. From the very first time I came into some of your sessions, you were talking about the life you're experiencing and how awakening impacts that, and the struggle with it, and the not just the struggle, but the joys of it, and the transformations that take place. So when a teacher is obviously full of love and full of joy and experiencing life to its fullest and bringing that joy to all of life's experiences, shining that light even through the dark experiences, that's when it most connects with me and my experience. So that's what I liked about this. Not so much the Rupert's answers, but I really liked the questions. I liked the way he tried to dissect the answers a little bit and get him to say more.
Yep. I love you're pointing to a part where he said, I think he said, for about 20 years um I had a really formal like mantra practice. And then for about 14 years I did this self-inquiry. And now he said, I'm pretty much just abiding as beingness. And at times you'll see me sitting here closing my eyes, but life doesn't really change that much when my eyes are open or my eyes are closed and engaged in the world. He said something like that, and that was very, very meaningful for me. Um, and Barbie, it's all yours in a minute, but Sandra literally has my number 4 here because I was laughing because I've been part of a lot of conversations with people talking about which path is better and which path am I on. And so much of what Rupert did said, you are where you are, and the practice that's going to work for you in this moment is going to arise. That's the way I got it. But he said, I don't know when I moved from one path to the other. He, like so many teachers I love, said, I noticed that I'm not responding to the world the same way I used to, which is really my experience. Like, I'm sitting here going, there's still fear that's arising in different things than we were talking about it yesterday. But even when the body and the personality is responding in a certain way, there's this larger knowing that it's temporary, and the experience is just so different. But my note was like, it's almost as like it's almost as if Rupert's indicating that he is living the progressive path. And that, I gotta tell you, when that arose in me, I like belly hurt laughed because of some conversations that I've been part of in the last X number of years where one has to pick one path versus the other. Rupert literally said what I've heard other people say. There are a few immediate awakenings, but for most of us, it's this gradual unfolding, and we don't even know what's happening. We just show up and we do what's there for us to do. And all of a sudden we notice, oh, something's working. Right? And
Yeah.
you know, it
And he
feels
also, go
what?
ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say it felt really funny to me to say, oh, Rupert's on the progressive path. Anyway,
He
go ahead.
also said it's so simple, and that was something that also, like some of the teachings, classes that I've been in, it's like, why are you making it so complicated? I think to myself, it's like it doesn't have to be this complicated. Sometimes I've heard what Rana say, my brain hurts or something like that. Yes, why is it? Is it isn't hard. It doesn't have to be hard. So thank you, Cindy. Thank you for
Thank you.
letting us all just be.
I have a friend in Mexico and she'll often look and say, this is too many words. She'll
Yeah.
just sit there going, this is just too many words. Can we just sit here for a minute?
So I'm not going to worry about being on the non-dual path. I'm just going to keep being, resting is being. I don't have practices. For a while I thought, should I have practices? Should I? And every time I tried to meditate, it never worked. And I realized I don't need to. I'm already where that would take me. Thanks, everybody. And
Life is my spiritual practice. That's what it's becoming. Yeah. Hey, Barbie.
Hey, I don't know what you said, but at least I got two questions, and so I'll go to the replay later. But what did he mean by quiet joy?
A lot of people, and Amy's hand is up next. So whatever I don't say, Amy, go ahead and add to it. But people were talking about happiness, and it's actually in my notes here. Like even Michael Singer teaches on it a lot. He says, this idea of happiness, where literally there's not a single problem in the world, nothing needs to change, right? Is our natural state. When the self-referencing eye filtering system is not on, when it's quiet, nothing needs to change. Many teachers call that happiness. Rupert said, there's way too many people that have an idea of what happiness is, so I like to call it quiet joy. It's
Okay.
really this space where you're sitting there going and you realize there is nothing that needs to change. I am content. All is well in my world.
Okay. And the second question is, what did he mean about inward facing and outward facing, or inward, something like that, inward world or outward world?
Yeah, well, the inward facing world is like our real simple, is the inner meditation. If we're just sitting there and we're counting our breath and we're watching our insides and we've completely withdrawn from the world and we're hanging out with Ramana on the top of the cave and the world is an illusion. I don't have to focus on it. I could just be my peaceful, happy self. It's inward facing. Outward facing is being fully in the world. I am the person who is going to solve global warming and I've got it and I'm doing like that, the one end of the pendulum. Everything is about making the world a better place versus all I need to do is sit in my bliss. And what he was pointing to was the fact that those are what's showing up in me. There are two sides of the pendulum, and he was pointing to a balance.
Okay, thank you.
You are welcome. How'd I do, Amy?
Barbie,
Oh, go ahead, David.
Barbie, I want to tell you that I love you, and that's the second time I've told you that today. And so I hope you got the first one. It was about a half an hour ago. We had this interaction, this just connection. At least it was on my part. So, and I just want you to know that all the strength and love and that I have is now joining you to help you get through tomorrow. So
Thank-
so I love
Thank
you.
you.
And David did that for all of us.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, we're
I
on
missed
all that
it.
message.
I missed it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm gonna, Barbara, I'm gonna answer your questions in a different way, I think, maybe than Cindy did. Your first question, Rupert said that the qualities of awareness, so the qualities of happiness and the qualities of joy that we use words for are in relation to the experience of the finite mind, right? So happiness is when the finite mind is not unhappy, right? And joy is when the finite mind experiences some kind of beautiful release, right? But he said, but awareness is actually so he said, awareness is peace in relationship to the anxiety that the finite mind usually experiences, right? The quality of love in awareness is in relation to the lack and the separation of the finite mind. But in truth, awareness doesn't really have any of those qualities. It just is stillness, right? Awareness is just open, empty, pure, absolute beingness. And any word that we attach to describing or defining awareness actually isn't really it. So that was, awareness is just, I am. So I think that was one thing. And then the inward facing path. The inward facing path is really it's when we turn inward and we say the outside world is not what we are. So we look at all the objects in the outside world and we say, I'm not that. I'm not that. I'm not that. I am this being. I am this being. I am none of the outside world. I am pure being. But what Rupert says is then you go back and you go outward and you take an outward facing path. And then you walk that path, encountering all the seemingly separate objects and personalities that arise on that path, all the while knowing I am none of those, but it's all arising in my awareness. So in a sense, I am all of that. So that's the outward facing path. I'm looking outward now from this space of being, knowing I am at everything that arises in my purview, knowing that it is me. All of it is me. All of it is God's being. I am God's being. Everything in it is God's being. So that's I think what Rupert means when he says the inward facing path and the outward facing path. And I hope that makes some sense.
Thank you. Most of them do. Thanks.
Okay, good. I don't know what I wanted to say. I did want to just say, I thought it was really great that he said meaning only has meaning from the point of view of the finite mind, right? So the world and all of our experience only has meaning from the point of view of the finite mind. And that's fine. Knock yourself out with it. Enjoy it. You know? And he said, in purpose, having a purpose is only meaningful for the finite mind. Right? But what awareness is doing is just revealing itself as pure being all the time and expressing itself in this knowing. That's all it is. So I love that. That was a great reminder. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you all.
Thank you, Amy. Hey, Melanie.
Hi, everybody. So glad to be here. Thank you. I do really appreciated listening to Rupert. And also the interviewer, like Sandy was mentioning, there was, I'll see if I can articulate this, something that occurred to me when I was listening, because he first talked about how the finite mind, the finite mind and the senses cannot reveal reality, that it only is from can only portray a limited view, a dualistic understanding. So we need, and then he took us, you can only really experience reality by going inward and almost, I guess, saying, get beyond the finite mind. But then he talks about it, how he tries to kind of explain why duality arose, that awareness wanted to experience itself. And the only way to do that was to separate. The only way we can experiencing something is to get apart from it. And therefore there's a separation, and that's the only way you can, why duality kind of arose. But then I began to question, how can anyone know that? It seems like it's ineffable. He seems to like be kind of wants to answer a question that can't be answered. And isn't that really using thought to answer something that can't be answered? So I just came around to living and not knowing, and just be okay with that. It's okay not to know, and just experience it. And we don't need all these theories and beliefs about why this happens and that's happened, but just be comfortable and just love, just being, and that's it. And don't take it out too far. So anyway, that was my.
And I tell you that part of the audio, my notes said, he's moved away from direct experience, and he's creating a maybe if, I don't know, but, and I've lost interest. I've literally wrote it down. He's moving away from like direct experience. How is this useful? I'm starting to get bored.
Yeah.
I was in the same place with you. Is this useful? Like, is this story, maybe this is why it's happening? At this point, I'm more interested in how am I in this moment in a way that serves myself and the others, and others, seeming others, to the with the greatest love. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he wants to answers through the mind. The mind wants to know, the finite mind really wants to know all the answers. And sometimes it's wonderful just to be comfortable with just not knowing, being okay.
And the other thing that I really love about that, Melanie, is this conversation. It's Donald Hoffman that comes to mind, right? This idea that we're living in a virtual headset.
Mm.
And why that's so useful for me is to recognize that this need for an intellectual understanding is coming only from within the headset. And it can only use what the headset's been programmed with. So any answer comes from within the programming when you're using the intellect, which is what this part of this audio is about. I'm not interested in what the intellect can give me when it comes to that. I'd rather rest as being and see and have what I don't understand upgrade the virtual headset. Right? Because that's the other thing that came up there. So I'm really glad you pointed to it. I had the same discomfort right there and came to essentially the same conclusion. Does anybody else want to know what Amy has to say about it, or Rana, or both? Because
I'm such a chatty Kathy here.
love it.
I love Melanie's observation, and I completely rock what you're saying. When I listen to Donald Hoffman and he talks about the headset, boy, I can get into this space where I feel really trapped, because I know that the mind can't see beyond itself. And I'm almost like this prisoner pounding on the walls of this cell, wanting to break out, And that's when I go to Rupert's explanation sometimes, and I say, oh, that's exactly, because he does explain it for me quite well. And I do somehow have a sense of knowing when he says unlimitedness cannot experience itself except by becoming finite. That's the only way it can experience itself. And there's something in that that says yes in me. And I can't really tell you why it is. It just says, yeah. So that's kind of, but what Mel says about just living and not know, I can't know that. You know, she's absolutely right. I can't know that. So on some sense, I have to trust that I'm just not able to experience my own unlimitedness unless I go in. And then I ask, is there any boundary here when I go in? No, there's no boundary. Is there any birth? Can I remember any birth? No. Have I ever experienced death? No. Is there any separation? No. And Jenny Beal does a really good job of describing that really, really well. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. I won't raise my hand again, but unless
Oh,
you
please,
want
if
to.
you're guided
I
to
really
raise your
want to, I
hand again.
will.
Thank you. Rana, you know, I don't allow anyone to sit there and say they've spoken too much.
Yeah, you're crazy, Amy. That's why I love you so much. Really appreciating this discussion, and just to bounce off of what Amy was just talking about. The understanding here is that consciousness experiences itself by acting as if it's something different. Like that old question, would it be like if it were different? What would it be like if I wasn't God? Determined to see things differently for sure. And that's the rediscovering of the true nature, you know, and consciousness getting to know itself, because it's, you know, played this little game here. Thank you, Melanie, for what you shared. You shared it right before I was going to share it. I thought that was so cool, right? My hand went up right after or was going to. I said, I heard, listen to her. And it was that same pointing. So from that space, a question has arisen. Is any time the question is why, is that not the intellect, the thinking mind, right? Because if it's questioning why, you can soften it and say, well, I just want to know how it came about or whatever, you know, but there's still that lack of acceptance in it is what it is. You don't have to know why. Look at it for what it is. Whatever led up to this is gone, seemingly, you know. So it appears that why is a finite mind question. And so when it's suggested that the finite mind can't awaken, it can't be enlightened, that's kind of becoming clearer here, you know, because it's always going to be stuck in the questioning because it thinks it's separate, you know, and it thinks, you know, why did this happen? Why am I different? You know, and that forgetting. I enjoy listening to Rupert because his material was some of the first material that I was able to experience the spaciousness that is talked about, almost an emptiness or a fully inclusiveness of all that is seen. Like when he does that experiment about dropping the walls off of your room, where does the space end? I mean, I could, and then combined with sitting quietly and just dropping inward to a place that I had never experienced prior to these teachings, you know, those two combinations of things just, there's something beyond the finite mind for this one here that occurs. And I'm not searching for that occur again. I'm just reflecting experience that's been had. But it seems to be a spaciousness that can be dropped into, you know, which is why we're constant, or this one's constantly reminded to pause. slow it down, take it all in. What is here now? So it's definitely a different kind of living. I have slowed down dramatically in the last 4 years. There was always multitasking and getting ready, anticipating next thing, blah, blah, blah. And this idea that I can rest back into what I truly am, it's just such a tool to live in the world, but not of it, right? But not of it. So thank you. I enjoyed the hour I watched and will be watching the other hour and a half throughout the weekend. Love you.
Love you. Hey, John.
Hey, hi, everybody. Thank you. I don't know why my picture doesn't come up. There it is.
There it is.
I have this meeting closes in a few minutes, right?
Yes.
So that's good. I won't be gabbling on forever. I like to add my piece that I really enjoy listening to what people talk about, and they stimulate my brain cells of recognition, and I so enjoy that, to be here. And in terms of slowing things down, I did see one thing. The guy says, if you've got internal dialogue that slows down, slow down the talking, let it get that voice. And a way to put that up, put those words on a billboard, and then separate the words and separate the letters and just look at it, so it slows the whole thing down. So thanks for reminding me about that, slowing down, let it, give myself a break. Thing I like about philosophers and spiritual teachers is what I did here this week, and it speaks to the experiences we're talking. I don't know if anybody ever heard of an art critic and philosopher, Arthur Dante. He died a few years ago, but anyway, he said something that really had me thinking a lot lately, and it's stimulated my thoughts again today, because he's talking about knowledge, and he's saying, and teaching, and he says, well, we teach what we know. In other words, for me, that's like we demonstrate what we are. We teach what we know, and we indoctrinate with our beliefs. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, so I can really start making distinctions between what I know and what I believe, and where it's all coming from. And I thought that was so useful for me. And I know it's an intellectual kind of a thing, but just to remember that the experiences that I have are my knowledge, and your experiences are your knowledge, and that does carry power. There's no question of it, So, and how can I learn to stand in that and be comfortable in that, and just accept that and be willing to accept that, and no matter where it comes from. So, and be okay too with the whys of the indoctrination that I've had, of all these wonderful beliefs from the traditionals of the world. Thank you. I love you too, all of you.
I love us. Anybody else want to say anything while the recording is on? If not, we'll call it and stop the recording and play the song again for Barbie and whoever else wants to listen to, watch it. Man, I love us so very much.
By the way, I really love that dancer and human and dancer song you played there, Cindy, that a while ago. Oh, I played that repeatedly now. It's so beautiful.
It's a fabulous song. All right, let me stop the recording.